The latest Hollywood meltdown. Next. Welcome to the Stan Simpson Show, a program about Connecticut people and compelling issues. Make it a point to drop in every week. Charlie Sheen's bizarre behavior has shut down one of TV's most popular shows. But the ramifications for the Two and a Half Men star are wide-reaching. Many of his friends and fans have expressed concern about his mental and emotional health and wonder whether we are witnessing a meltdown that will result in dire consequences for Sheen. Hartford Courant Java columnist Maryellen Fillo joins us with her thoughts. In our second segment, the Yukon women are on another dominant run, and the curtain is closing on one of its greatest players ever. Hartford Courant Yukon women's beat writer John Altavilla. Johnny A. stops in for a chat. Then we'll wrap things up with a local pastor trying to empower young women to avoid dating violence. Reverend Garland Higgins will tell us more about her new organization. But first, oh, Charlie.
Hello.
Java columnist Maryellen Fillo. This is the talker of mammoth proportions. So
the man is going to make a huge buck off of this. Mark my words.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you follow the scene. What's the big deal here? Another Hollywood meltdown. We've been there, done that. Why is this one so particularly captivating?
I think it's well orchestrated.
Do you really?
I do.
So do I.
He actually hired a company to set up that Twitter account. He had 700,000 people in 2 hours. Yes, he hired a company to do that. A company that only helps celebrities get those Twitter and Facebook accounts going. And the kicker in it is that along with that company is the promise of an product endorsement.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Now, what's he going to endorse that?
I have no idea. Chocolate milk, perhaps. But yes, the
Maybe
man is,
Smirnoff?
I think he's got many, many problems, but I'm not convinced this is all just rolling out all by itself.
Yes, you and I
mean,
agree
he's
on this.
been on every morning talk show.
Right.
We're talking about him. How many times did you click on Charlie Sheen today
No, you're right.
on the computer?
It's too titillating, right? Even though we've been there before with Lindsay Lohan, those guys. We'll get to those guys in a second, but I do think there's some orchestration involved here, too. So interesting that you think the same way. So what's in it for this guy? He makes $2 million an episode.
It's never enough.
He doesn't need the pub.
It's never enough. Sure, it's the nature of the beast. Because they say if you're not reading your name in the paper, you're not seeing yourself on TV, you're dead. How do you breathe life back into a career? And he's on a roll right now. And that show is really popular. I mean, I would think his co-stars want to strangle him.
How about that now?
And they've said nothing. And he's very annoyed at that they have not stepped up to his defense. But he's told his father and his brother to stay out of it. He's mad that his co-stars aren't stepping up. And
so ulterior motive for a guy who's this popular, you think it's still about just feeding the ego and keeping his name out there?
Sure it is. And every kind of media you can imagine has jumped on this. I mean, he's probably more popular today than he was 5 years ago. Easily, because of all of this.
Well, here's why I think you have a point here, because if you look at his history, he really hasn't changed. This is who Charlie Sheen is, right?
I mean, I love that show.
Drugs,
I like
partying, this is who the guy is. In fact, he's playing himself really on this TV show,
I feel sorriest for his children, because that's just a whole sad situation, but he will turn this into a moneymaker. Is it Lindsay Lohan, I think, has got her book coming out? Or no, she's doing Entertainment Tonight. She's doing an exclusive interview on how she got where she was and how now she wants to be a professional cook. Now, I know you'll watch it.
Of course.
You won't tell anybody that you turn it on, but you will. Yeah.
With the one eye open.
I mean? So we're suckers for this stuff. We are suckers for this stuff.
So how about those who say, wait a second, Simpson and Phil, you're both wrong. This is the signs of a guy having a major meltdown. He's showing all the signs of severe bipolar, schizophrenia. This is a sick man who may hurt himself down the road. You guys are both wrong here. He
did have that overdose problem, and, he certainly has had issues. Oh, I think there's some kind of abuse involved. It's just not striking me true enough as just somebody who's having a major meltdown. Have you looked at his latest tweets?
I haven't seen his latest tweets.
Okay,
I'll make a point to do so after the show.
He's got a Wrigley Field chalkboard, and he has created a hot dog named after him that should be sold at Wrigley Field.
Okay.
I mean, it's getting the marketing is actually pretty clever, but he has got there's too many brains involved in this to me.
Look at this package that was done recently on the whole Sheen thing and his two playmates. Take a look at this package.
I don't believe myself to be an addict. I really don't. I think that I'm going to just ignore or smash or finally dismiss a model that I think is rooted in vintage balderdash. You know, I'm a winner, and their lives look like they're, you know, ruled by losers. I mean, just to put it.
All right. So how is where he is now? How does that differ from Lindsay Lohan, who you just mentioned? How does that, her meltdown, where she's doing all the things, how does this differ from what she went through?
I think he's older and hopefully wiser. I think that the Lindsay Lohans and the Britney Spears and some of those people, they were so young when they were at the peak of their popularity. And at 16, I certainly wasn't equipped for that kind of change in my life. So I think some of their problems more have to do with being so young, with when they hit it big, and it's a whole new world.
And you don't think he has the same issue? You don't think he's just older and still traces back to a childhood where he was
I mean, I know his dad had problems, and he grew up in a very, he was very indulged as a child. But again, I just think he's older, and with age comes hopefully some wisdom. And so I think that when people look at this, it's not like, oh, that stupid kid. You know, I think they look at it differently.
How about this? In order to be a great actor, you've got to be a little bit off-center. That's the reality, that if you peel back the layers of someone who can really act, that you're seeing someone who is sort of a bit off-center. Any validity to that?
Please, I don't know. I don't see George Clooney as off-center, but if you do, feel free to say
it. Even with athletes, the NFL players, in order to be a great athlete, you have to be a little bit, you're kind of wired differently.
Oh, I'd hate to
we're
think
peeling
that.
the layers off and saying, hey, the guy he's a little bit different.
I kind of like to think the wiring comes first.
Okay.
Don't you think?
Well, I mean, I would say this. If the guy is just naturally eccentric, right, and everyone has sort of looked past it for all these years, and now he's over-the-top eccentric, to what degree should folks be troubled if he's always been, he's not really out of character here. He's just a little bit over the top, right?
He is. But again, he is going to score big off of this. Mark my words.
How about
there
Mel?
will be a book. There's going to be a movie. Somebody is going to say, come, we want you. We want to do a show with you. Come do it with us.
How about the show he had? How do you recover that show? Did they get that thing back going again?
I would scrap it.
You would? Why?
Oh, I would. Because
it's a cash cow.
Not when they bring in a new number 3 person.
No, I mean, to get him.
Bring him back? Are you kidding?
Is there any way to salvage him back?
But they have lots of fences to mend on that one.
They do.
I mean, he's pretty much alienated everybody.
But money talks.
Yeah.
Right? If he makes $2 million an episode, they're making a lot of money per episode.
That's a good point. Well, I just read the advertising revenue from that show is an outrageous amount of money.
Has to be.
And when the advertisers put the pressure on the station, on the network, I think that maybe they will all sit around a table and say, we can agree to hate each other, but for the sake of the dollar signs, let's all work together.
Let's about Mel Gibson real quick, other meltdowns. His meltdown, does he ever recover? Theirs a little more mean-spirited, anti-Semitism, race issues, abuse.
His was somehow, to me, much more abusive and much more distasteful, I think. I don't know what other words to use, because that one was...
Mean-spirited?
Yeah, that one was just nasty. Charlie Sheen's was kind of in his own little world, and he took a couple shots, but they really weren't bad shots. Where Mel Gibson, to me, he was just certifiably insane as far as I'm concerned. I mean, he said things, I could have a gun to my head and I wouldn't be able to say them.
Can he come back, Mel? Is he done?
I think he's done.
Yeah.
I think he's done.
Me too.
Yeah. I think he went over the top on his rants and his meltdown.
15 seconds, Kanye West.
Again,
this is Taylor Swift.
He was young.
Right?
I think it's a lot to handle. I think when you're young, you think you're invincible. You don't think before you talk. And I think his was a classic case of spouting off without thinking about it. And all I could think of is, if he were my child, I probably would have been grabbing him and saying, do you know what... No, that's not allowed anymore. Do you know what you sounded like?
Right.
And saying, you sit down and you think about it.
But normally, real quick, the ramification normally is you get a little spanking and you come back stronger than ever, unless you're Mel Gibson, where you had repeated spankings and now it's
and Mel Gibson's older.
Right.
I think that figures into the whole
So you
thing.
predict that Sheen will be back better, stronger than ever?
I think he will be back. Yes.
I do too. All right. Always good to have you back. Maryellen and Fillo. When we come back, folks, we'll talk about the UConn women's basketball team on yet another dominant run and how the curtain is closing on one of the program's greatest players ever. The Courant's John Altavilla joined us. Don't go away.